One is our thoughts. Number 2 is our speech. And number 3 is our action. It says charity, you think it no evil, right? But I have to admit that I do think evil of my husband. Especially when I am really burnt out, I'm really sick, or when I am really mad. So I would think, dang it, why am I marrying this guy? So I do, but most of the war is within my own mind only. I don't really go get on his case and get mad at him. And usually when I get mad, I will, very important thing I say, I'm mad at you. That's the first thing I say. And then the next thing I do is you just need to give me some time out. Just step off for a second. And then when I'm ready, I'll come talk to you. That's what I say. So I think Michael has a story about it.
So when I first got married, the first couple of years, I made the mistake of trying to fix things. So she'd get upset, and she'd get angry, and I always used to think, oh, okay, so I gotta fix it somehow, right? What did I do? Why are you upset? And I learned that, hopefully I learned that there are times where she just wants to get mad. And so I learned, we learned together. So I'd come up to her and I would just ask her, are you mad at me or are you just mad? And so if she's mad, she'll say, I'm mad. And I say, are you mad at me? And she'll be like, no. And then I'll just leave her alone. And then, I'll ask her, are you mad? And she says, yes. And she'll say, and I'll say, are you mad at me? And she'll say, yes, I'm mad at you. And then I would just leave her alone.
The kids too involved. I think we learn, pretty much in the beginning we fight. We do fight. And then when we have our kids, we started to learn to leave each other alone because when we get mad, we just want to be left alone. And then when I clear my head, I went and tell you, I want you to do this. I want you to change. Okay, so with the charity part too, forgiveness is very important. I think we are pretty slow to get mad at each other and we forgive fairly easily. And I have a story about that. When I was in labor with my first child, Isaiah, he was so nice. He was by my side and he tried to fan me because I was sweating and I drink a lot of water and sweat a lot. So he picked up in the hospital they gave you a stack of information package in a folder. He's trying to fan me with the information package, but he didn't realize how heavy it was. So I was just passing through one contraction, and he picked up that package trying to fan me, and then he hit my stomach. So I wasn't even over with the first contraction, and then the next contraction started. It's wow, I'm really, really in pain. But then, of course, I forgive him, but I will never forget the experience because it's really hilarious, actually, in hindsight. So that's how we forgive each other. And yeah, usually when we do get mad at each other, in the end, we will say sorry. Well, we don't get mad at each other more than one night. So the night before we go to bed, we say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's what I say. I'm sorry. And then he said, I'm sorry too. Okay. And there's a rule between us that this is a really hard-learned lesson between us because you know how when you're newly wed, you think, oh, my husband loves me so much, he must know what I think without me telling him. He can read my mind, kind of thing. So Michael would tell me, you're ridiculous. There's no way I can read your mind. Don't let me read your mind. Just tell me what you want already. So that is something that until this day I still struggle. And he will tell you why it's so hard for him to read my mind. But that's the story about it.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, when we first got married, she would just expect me to do things. And then she'd want me to do things and I would have no idea. I just didn't know that that's what she wanted. One example would be she told me to go dress the kids. So I would dress the kids. And I would go, and after I had spent, fighting with the kids, maybe 20 minutes fighting with them, and I would get them all dressed. And after I got them all dressed, right afterwards, she would go and she would undress them and redress them. And it would just drive me crazy because I was thinking, why am I doing it if you're gonna redo it?
The reason behind is, I think it's logical because like nighttime, especially nighttime, they already go bed. Since like they usually kicked off their blanket, and I'm thinking, oh, you need to put long sleeve on them. So it's like he dressed them all in like short sleeves, shorts, and then go to bed. I said, they're gonna get you cold. So that's why I'm dressing. But like reading my mind. But I should make myself clear, like, oh, you need to dress them. Tonight it's cold. Please dress them in long sleeve. That's what I should do. So anyway, so the second part will be the speaking part. So speak no evil. And so I did make a mistake when I first got married. Just, a lot of adjustment. So I kind of I complained to my sister because my sister just in TBA. We were both married. So I said, yeah, Michael didn't do this, didn't do that, yada, yada, yada. And then sometimes when I talk to my mom too, like through Skype, I'll tell her, I don't like it when he do this and then that. So my mom got really, really concerned. So all 3 times when I gave birth, my mom came and helped me. And the first few times, she was like, she's so concerned. She's trying to solve my problem. She said, oh, you gotta be more long-suffering. You cannot just do that to your husband. You cannot just nagging on him. Men don't like people nagging on him and stuff like that. So she was so concerned. But we were doing actually okay. And then the second time she came, she gave me the same counsel. By the third time, she finally said, I'm so happy that you and your husband are working out so well. You guys can talk, you guys laugh together, talk together, and having such a good relationship. The reason why she gave me all these counsels is because when we first got married, I complained to them about Michael, and then they remember it for that long. But 5 years later, she's still concerned, and then she finally I'm relieved now because I see your relationship so good. And we usually when our kids fight, we'll say, hey, don't be so mean to each other, be nice. So there were times that when me and Michael were fighting, our oldest son, I said, Mommy, Daddy, you're supposed to be nice to each other. You cannot fight like that. And then I said, you're right, I'm sorry. So that's how we make up. And the third one is act no evil. So I believe a good relationship is a give-give relationship, not a give and take relationship or a take-take relationship. So you give 100% to your spouse. But I think we have to be careful because my 100% and his 100% may not be the same. So we might not be in the same standard. So when we first got married, we were washing dishes together. He does the soaping and I do the rinsing. So, and then I will wash the dishes, and because there's some oil on it, I will pass it back to him to rinse again. So he said, what's wrong with that? Why I have to do it twice? I said, because it's not clean enough. So my cleanliness in 100% is not equal to his cleanliness in 100%. So we have to compromise and we have to work it out. And yeah, and Michael will wrap up for me.
Okay. So there's basically, I think for me, there's 3 main things as far as that I learned a little bit over time. And there are a lot of advice that was just given to me. The first is to deal with revenge. I remember one of my friend's dads, when I was a teenager, I went to their house, and it was late in the evening. Well, it was in the evening, and he had just come home from work. He had worked all day, and the baby was screaming his head off, and his wife was sick. So he was walking the baby up and down the hallway, like the whole stretch of the hallway. He was just walking it back and forth, and the baby was still crying, but he was doing that. And I remember I went over and I just started to talk to him. And I remember the advice that he gave me. He said, it's not fair. He said, it's not fair that I had to work all day. It's not fair that I had to come home and prepare dinner for the kids. And it's not fair that I'm gonna stay up late and I'm going to have to go to work tomorrow as well. He said, that's not fair. But he said, I can do it. And so why should I complain about it? And if I can, then it should be okay, right? And so And that advice, since I was a teenager, has stuck with me. So anytime where I feel really tired or I feel sick or anything like that, I try to remember that experience, and I think, well, it isn't fair, you know. And when you try to make your relationship fair, it's like scooping ice cream out of the ice cream, you know, out of the gallon and trying to make it flat. You know, you're trying to make it fair, and so you're like, well, I just want to make it flat, so I'm just going to scoop one more until I get it to the right level. But it just never becomes exactly flat. You just keep scooping, right? You just keep going. And so the whole idea of revenge is that, so a lot of times I stop and ask myself, am I doing this because I'm angry? Or am I doing this because I'm trying to get something back? Am I measuring? Am I using the words, remember that time? And so for me, revenge is something that I think is very important for a relationship. You want to avoid it at all costs. You never want to be vengeful. You never want to do any action because you're trying to make things fair. The second thing is, as she was talking about, was forgiveness. And we have a lot of catchphrases that we've gotten over the years. So when she's angry, she just uses very specific catchphrases, and it communicates very well between the two of us. Like, for example, she said one of them, is step off. And immediately when either of us says step off, which we learned from School of Rock, we just leave, we just stop. Whatever we're mid-sentence, we just stop. Like, step off, we're done, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And so that's a catchphrase for us. And another catchphrase that we use is, will you forgive me, right? And that's just a catchphrase that we use. And even when we're really angry, we'll say, will you forgive me? And he says, not right now. but it's a phrase that we always use. And the final thing, so revenge, forgiveness, and the final thing is mistakes. Mistakes are okay. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship, and there's no such thing as being perfect. So I remember last year, I came home and I made an $800 mistake. Like I know, I can quantify it because it was specifically an $800 mistake. Because I coach speech and debate, and I had miscalculated. It was my mistake. I miscalculated something, and it was an $800 mistake. And I came home and I was feeling pretty terrible about it, and I was pretty mad at myself about it. And I came home and I told Yen Yen that I made this $800 mistake, and her first response was, "That's okay." Right? And at a lot of times when people make mistakes, the last thing that they need is somebody to tell them that they made a mistake. The last thing that they need is for somebody to drag them down a little bit further. I think we've always lived where mistakes are okay. That's okay to make mistakes. And I think that's really what a relationship really should be about. Avoiding revenge, giving forgiveness, and letting people make mistakes.